So I have here, it says Love It or List It 2 is, I guess it's technically classified as a spin-off. It actually has 5 seasons. Love It or List It, the original, is on its 12th season. And I'm bringing this up because actually I was watching Love It or List It the other day, and they have these like pop-up facts, these little like word bubbles that come up to talk about, various things, tell you about a coffered ceiling and stuff like that. And there was one that was coming up yesterday, and the weird thing about these pop-ups is that they come up at various places on the screen, kind of like the Camp Rock trivia or something like that Disney Channel used to do, and they're red with white text, so it's similar to like a warning you would see on the bottom of your screen, like the warning scroll. And that was kind of interesting. I don't know why they did that, because it was a little alarming. But there was a factoid, I guess. They had a curbside shot of a house they were looking at, and the factoid said, curbside mailboxes make it easier for mail delivery, even though residents have to trek out to the end of their driveway. And I was kind of confused by this, because I wasn't sure who the target audience was for that. I mean, up until this point, I had been seeing some useful information in these factoids, but with this one, I was kind of confused as to who would need to know that information. I get that, there's a lot of people that don't have mailboxes, live in apartments, live in the city, and all these things, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people are aware of already. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some people who need to know about that. It was nice that they had it there. I mean, just to cover all their bases. Anyways, with that, I guess I'll get back to the main topic here. We're going to be talking about Elroy meets Orbitty, which is actually, this is going to be the first episode of this new podcast, and we're going to be starting with the revival Jetsons, starting with the shows that came out in the 80s. Skipping over the shows that came out in the 60s for now. I might go back. We'll see. See how this goes. But anyways, just a few notes about the theme song. It has a beautiful jazzy theme song. It's very catchy. It's very upbeat. It introduces you the characters. It doesn't feel, drawn out or too long. It's nice and brief. And, you see George, Elroy, Judy, and Jane, gets them all pretty much their defining traits right there. You need to know. Yeah, pretty much it tells you everything you need to know about each character. So that's good. And then it has George ending up at Spacely Sprocket, so of course he works. But this episode starts out with, actually, the main character of this episode is Elroy, and it definitely centers around him and his relationship with Astro. So it starts on an asteroid. Elroy and the rest of the Little Dipper school are on a school ship on a field trip to an asteroid, and they're there with their robot teachers, and it's the end of the field trip. The teachers are kind of corralling the kids to come back. This kid named Orville he's walking around with a camera. It looks like a regular camera, but apparently it takes holographs of the field trip, and he walks up to the robot teacher and he's like, I got these terrific holographs of this trip. And the robot teacher's just like, that's fine, Orville, just obviously not too impressed by that, but I guess that might be, a standard reaction for the robots, however they're programmed. And then another girl is on the conveyor belt behind Orville. She's got an asteroid. It's actually a meteorite, I think. She's walking around. It looks like a giant Pink Panther diamond, one of these like crystals. And it's a meteorite, and she says, I can't wait to use this meteorite as a paperweight. And that kind of stands out to me. I mean, I know that, people believe we're moving to a paperless society, and in reality, we're probably using more paper than ever before. But, a paperweight in this time period, I mean, it does stand out. But, I mean, if that's the coolest thing you can do with a meteorite in the future is use it as a paperweight, which is pretty much, I guess that relates well. I don't know. It's yeah. I guess paper is still a thing, and they need to have paperweights. Maybe it's just decorative, a nice meteorite paperweight. But again, I'm not, paper being a thing. Paperweights are I guess they're timeless. Paperweights are truly timeless. They're everywhere. Anyways, the teacher has like a Teletubby screen, and it's like, is anybody missing? And then of course Elroy's face shows up. His picture there, and she goes like, sometimes that boy makes me wish I was programmed as a computerized dishwasher. And I guess Elroy must regularly give his robot teacher a pretty hard time, because that seems kind of harsh to me. I don't know. Maybe computerized dishwashers are not as bad as I think they are, but I don't know. I have a dishwasher that has buttons and stuff on it, so I don't know how it feels. I'm just not understanding from wishing you were programmed as something else. Like, it's meant to be like, oh, this kid really gives me a hard time. But as far as how severe that is, it's would you rather be programmed as a washing machine? I don't know. I'm not a robot. Anyways, it sends out this recon drone, basically the same thing that, at least it's a nice callback to the Empire Strikes Back with the recon drone scouting Hoth, which is what it appeared like to me. And Elroy, he's way on the other side of the asteroid. He's found a swell-looking rock inside of a boulder that's got a crack in it, and he's pulling on it to get it out. It's kind of like that old the trap that they would use for like apes or whatever, or monkeys in the jungle, where they take a hollowed out shell of something and they put something shiny inside, and the animal would reach in and grab it, and if it was in its fist, it couldn't get its hand out of the hole, so it'd be stuck and it just wouldn't let go. So it kind of reminded me of that sort of thing going on with this smaller rock inside this boulder. But it's kind of like a pink potato thing when it comes out. He's pulling on it, and he falls backwards, and the drone comes over and is like, look how dirty your spacesuit is. And I don't know. I mean, spacesuits, I guess they're supposed to get dirty, but I assume you wash them. I don't know if it is like stained with space, like is it like grass stains with asteroid dust? I mean, is it a pain to wash spacesuits? Maybe I don't know. And then the potato, this little pink rock, it's basically a potato, flies out of this hole anyways, and it's kind of bouncing around. And Elroy sees it, and he's like, man, this is the spaciest. And that is a good adjective. Isn't this the spaciest? I like that adjective, because now it's really only in context that you see it. Anyways, flash forward to the next scene after Elroy gets this. So that's kind of the setup. And then we get back to the regular daily life. We have George and Jane watching TV. They have a brand new 3D TV holographic set, and it's basically a movie projector that's vertical. It's on the ceiling. It's pointed down, and the show is just people. There's no background. It's just like people suspended in the air, and they're gonna watch this show. It's called The Edge of Space Program, and it's a soap opera that Jane really likes. And it's almost time for this show, so they got to get ready. And then George, of course, would rather watch the Spaceball game instead of the soap opera. So he goes like, I'm aching back. I'd rather watch the Spaceball game. And, I guess the future still has backaches, which is good to know. And basically, the people in the soap opera, when he says that, they like hear what he says and they respond to it, and like live. So it's like really good TV, I guess, if you can interact with the actors. And they like, well, hey, we're trying to do our soap opera here, George. Why are you bothering us? And then Judy runs out of the bathroom. Her hair is like totally shot, and she was going for, I guess, a simple spiral nebula twist, which is a pretty cool hairdo. I don't think it's what she usually has. I think it's like special, but I guess it's simple. And her stellar styler, what she uses to do their hair, is like broken, totally busted. So Jane is like, George, maybe George can fix it for you. And then he just like turns back on the Spaceball game, and I guess they're just watching that now instead. And it's the Chicago Comets that are up to bat. The batter's name is Joey Jupiter, and I was like, why didn't they just use the Houston Astros? But I guess George is a big Chicago Comets fan, and he's like, come on, Joey Jupiter, knock it out of the solar system. And then he hits the ball on it, and it just comes through the TV and hits George in the face. And after he gets hit in the face, Jane, I guess she gets the remote back and she switches it back to the soap opera. But then it's the girl and the guy from the soap opera aren't there. It's just the girl, and she's with Joey Jupiter, the batter. So now like George is like, oh, the shows are all mixed up and stuff, and so now it's a problem, and then they just turn it off. And the girl from the soap opera is like, you're not, the guy, and then the Joey Jupiter is like, well, you're not the umpire, so they're pretty distraught, I guess. I don't know what would happen if you were in a spaceball game, and then all of a sudden you were in a soap opera, or something. It's kind of jarring. And then they just turn off the TV, and it's pretty good timing, because at that point Rosie comes back in carrying Elroy in her arms. She's got the big sack of moon rocks, or asteroid rocks, I guess, that Elroy has. And Astro, actually, he's sniffing around. He takes out the pink potato rock, and he buries it in like a potted plant with real dirt. And that's one of those things you don't expect to see in the future either, like a potted plant with real dirt. I don't know. Everything's chrome in the future and all that. But yeah, so they turn the TV back on after Rosie clears Elroy out. They're going to bed and stuff, and it's just George there, and it's Joey Jupiter and the girl Jennifer from the soap opera, and they just want their privacy now, because now it's a whole new show. No longer a Spaceball game, no longer soap opera. Now it's something entirely different. And George is like, "Oh, sorry," and then he turns it off again. And in the meantime, Orbitty, who is the pink rock, of course, he's this cute little alien. He jumps back out of the potted plant, back into the sack, and then basically Rosie takes Elroy, puts him to bed, and Jane is there to tuck him in, and she's like, "What would you like to dream about tonight?" Um, and basically, she gives him three options, which are Jungle Hunter, Super Sports Star, and Rocket Ranger. But then it goes to the touchpad and it actually lists out the top 10 dreams from the Dream-O-Matic that you can choose to dream before you go to bed, I guess. Some of these are cool. I mean, you got Retro Man, Gyro's Travels, Space Hunter, Planet 10, Pluto's Moons, Space Avenger, Pirates of Mars, Ultra Warp, Rocket Ranger, and Droid Madness. Elroy, of course, picks Rocket Ranger, his favorite, and that's a pretty good one, I think. And you know, Jane just walks out, and she does this pause on her hand, and she goes to just like snap her fingers, and that turns out all the lights. And the whole dream sequence is starting for Elroy. You know, he looks sleepy and stuff. It's this lullaby music. And it goes like, "Good evening, Rocket Ranger. Your mission tonight is to battle the gas blobs of Beta 3." You know? And that's something, I guess that's cool for sleeping, battling the gas blobs. And basically, Astro is in the room too, you know, sleeping in Elroy's room because they're pretty close, I guess. And Orbitty is he jumped back in the sack of asteroid rocks, and now he's up. He's like got two of his springy legs sticking out. He's not like fully hatched out of the egg. He's got two springy legs. He's bouncing all around. So Astro sees this and like, you know, he's like, what's this threat? What's this intrusion in this room here? Like, so he starts chasing after it. And as they're chasing around, you know, it's one of these like funny, goofy chase scenes, and they're causing a whole ruckus all over the room. And the Rocket Ranger dream sequence is saying Rocket Ranger, there's be careful. There's a swarm of deadly bees on your right. And this is like as Elroy is asleep. This is like talking to him, and I don't think I would like to sleep in a dream that had deadly bees in it. Specifically, deadly bees would be bad for me, but so during their chase, Astro actually like bumps into Elroy from his left, but the Elroy just like gets startled awake, and he's like, "Oh, Astro, what the heck are you doing? I thought you were a swarm of deadly bees," you know, and that's pretty scary to wake up to a swarm of deadly bees. I've done it before, and I really don't like that feeling if you watch a lot of like bug stuff before you go to bed. And Orbitty, meanwhile, is hanging out on the ceiling with his suction cup feet and springy legs, and he continues to hatch. Astro and Elroy watch him hatch all the way, and Astro is still growling at it, doesn't like it, and this thing, Orbitty, he pretty much talks like it's a little hard to understand, but he's basically talking perfectly clean English, and if you have the subtitles on, you know, it's his voice is very easy to understand. So Astro and Elroy are checking this out. He drops down from the ceiling, and he's like, "My name is Orbitty," and Elroy's like, "Welcome to Earth," and Astro is still, you know, suspicious, still growling, so Elroy sends him to sleep in the kitchen, and then Orbitty and Elroy just like go to bed to get like, it's just like totally normal. They just met, but you know, it's kind of interesting. Like I was watching through this, and there are some points when Orbitty speaks full clear English, and it's just like high pitched and cute. And there are other times when like they were lazy and they just had him speak alien language, but they still have Elroy understand it. But they're pretty, you know, it's like, "My name is Orbitty, my name is Elroy." Like he literally just hatched, and he like named himself, which is interesting. Usually like they name it, like the kid who finds the alien names it. But you know, I guess he was born with a name, and he's like, "I know my name," which is good. And So the next scene, it goes to the morning time. Uh, George is a total mess when he gets out of bed. He's like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have eaten that pizza in bed last night." And he's got his grooming gizmo there in the bathroom to help him, get cleaned up. His hair is everywhere and everything. He needs to shave, so he's got his auto barber, and it's all going haywire in classic Jetsons fashion. These futuristic things not working out, and but so he's suspicious. He thinks somebody tinkered with my auto barber. Meanwhile, Judy's out and about, and the styler is now perfectly fixed. She has whatever haircut she wants, I guess. I don't know if she actually did get the simple spiral nebula twist or not. Maybe they'll go over that in a future episode, but George is suspicious still because he's like, somebody messed with the stellar styler by fixing it. Somebody messed with my auto barber by breaking it. So he's immediately suspects Elroy, but then it's clear to him that we got this Orbitty thing jumping around, bouncing around. The whole family is scared of it. It's kind of chasing them around. It fools Rosie a little bit, and they all jump up on the table. You got Judy, Jane, George, Rosie. Everybody's on the table. Astro is there. George is like, Astro, attack! And Astro just runs away. And George is like, some guard dog you turned out to be. So he's kind of piling on more of this feeling on Astro, because Astro really doesn't like this thing at this point, and now it feels even worse. But then Elroy comes out, and he's like, what's going on? Why are you guys so freaked out? How can a kid get any sleep with all this ruckus going on? And he's like, no, that thing hatched in my room last night. And then, the whole family is standing on this glass table, and then it just shatters, and they fall. And George is like, why can't we have normal problems like everyone else? But, glass tables break pretty commonly. And then the next scene, we have George. He's looking at, an encyclopedia. He goes to the F section, but then it's volume O, which has the O's, which was kind of weird. I don't know if there's a different alphabet. It was like, he's like, D, E, F, here we go. And then he pulls it out, and it says volume O. And then it gives him, owls, ogres, and ostriches. And he's like, no, give me Orbitty. So it finally gives him Orbitty, which, that's kind of jumping around the alphabet there, but it says, Orbitty has spring-loaded legs and suction-cup feet, and it changes color with its emotions, which was, I guess, really popular in the 80s. You had, mood rings and these mood bracelets and mood necklaces and mood rings coming out, and they would change color and tell you how you were feeling, I guess. So that was a big part of the 80s there. And so I think that's what they were referencing, because he's kind of cute too. They had lots of cute stuff. It says Orbitty is friendly, helpful, and polite, and they're thought to be extinct, actually. The last Orbitty was seen over 600 years ago. So they're not around anymore, but Orbitty is out and about in their house. He's actually working on the TV. And George is like, oh no, don't let that thing near my new 3D holographic set television. He's like, I don't care if it's an endangered species or not. I'm gonna, but then the TV is working fine. And I guess, I don't know what Orbitty did to the baseball player and the Jennifer, but I guess he got it all straightened out. And then on the TV, actually, we have Splash Crater, which is he's a diver, I guess, and he's going to attempt a triple somersault dive, which doesn't seem too complicated. I mean, I'm not a diver, and I've never done a flip while diving or jumping, but only 3 somersaults for this kind of era seems a little easy. I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot more somersaults than 3 when I watch Olympic diving. But he's doing a triple somersault into the 7 pools of Pluto swim stadium. And, if he's got a whole swim stadium there, you kind of hope that maybe these are really, really good somersaults, But I remember the diving, you're not supposed to make a big splash. When you enter, you lose points if you make too big of a splash. And if this guy's any sort of, talented diver, he's not going to, you just go right in the water without a splash. But like the when he jumps, George gets splashed by the dive through the 3D TV. I don't know if this is an added effect or if he's like that bad at dive. Maybe in the future you're supposed to splash. I don't know. So he does the triple somersaults, and George gets hit by the water, and Orbitty goes about like continuing to fix stuff. And Astro, he feels, he's starting to get feeling replaced. You have like they're playing fetch with Elroy and Astro playing fetch, and Orbitty comes in and catches it before Astro can. And what's kind of weird is during this whole scene, like this whole sequence, you have Astro is able to talk. He's voiced by Frank Welker, the voice of Scooby-Doo and Fred, and like he sounds pretty much identical to Scooby-Doo. And because Scooby-Doo talks, and with the gang in Scooby-Doo, he's really like on the same level as each of the gang members as far as like treating him like a human. Him and Shaggy are more like brothers, really. And but with this, you have more like a Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto kind of thing, where Astro is the dog, and he's not really one of the people. Like he's not nearly as, at least I believe he's not nearly treated as much of a human as Scooby is, which is weird because he also can talk the same way. So that was a little strange, because like he should be a little bit more, like if they're gonna have just a regular talking dog, like it's kind of like any of these where you have like the talking animal, and you don't treat them like a character that can talk. You treat them as just a character that emotes, and it was a little strange. Maybe they'll get that straightened out, but like Astro is given, like he has like full responsibility and like full autonomy kind of in his own way. I mean, next I'll kind of get back to that later on, but next we have lunch. It's a hectic morning because of the table breaking and all that ruckus that they had. So Jane only had time for sandwiches, so they're all sitting at this table, I guess the four of them, and then this big like steamroller thing rolls across the table, and it rolls out all these sandwiches and glasses of milk and everything. So and there's two candles on the table too, so it's a nice lunch they have. And Elroy is like, "Hey Dad, like what are we gonna feed Orbitty, And George is like, "Don't worry about it. What does that thing even eat anyways?" So he's not too worried about the feeding of the endangered animal. But he's like, "Oh, but did you feed Astro?" And then of course Elroy's like, "Yeah, I gave him his Dino Delta dog chow," and which is what Astro eats. And Orbitty just like boings, I guess bounces, springs down and steals all of his Dino Delta dog chow from Astro. So Astro was like obviously upset by that. And then after lunch, Elroy's walking around with the scraps, and he's like, "Hey boy, you want the scraps too?" And he sees that Astro is eating all of the Dino Delta dog chow, which is not true. I mean, Orbitty stole it, but there's no more Dino Delta dog chow. And Elroy's just like, "Why'd you eat that so fast?" And then Orbitty comes down and takes the scraps, and Elroy's just like, "Good, now Orbitty got something." And Astro like has full capability to explain what has happened, but he's feeling misunderstood, he's feeling jealous. And then like immediately in the next scene, you have Orbitty just like springing around dancing, and the whole family, all four of them, are just watching him, like sitting around on the couch just watching him dance, being entertained, being enthused by this new dancing alien. And Astro is over in the corner with the family photo, with him. Astro is in the middle, but then he sees himself fade out of the photo, like in Back to the Future, and then is replaced by Orbitty just like suspended where he was. And then it goes to Orbitty's jumping around, springing around in the family photo. And of course they all love that. So then Astro starts crying, he's like, "I've been replaced, they don't love me anymore." And he actually takes off his collar, which is pretty significant. I guess there's some weird policies with this future about dog collars and licensing, but Astro pretty much takes off his collar walks over to their like space elevator thing, this tube lift, and he's like, "Goodbye, everyone," and then he's just like, he just leaves. And then George and Elroy's just like, "Where do you think Astro's going?" And then George is just like, "Now Astro is a dog that can take care of himself," and that's I mean, I guess so. I don't know why George thinks that, because immediately in the next scene we have Astro getting caught by, I guess, the future version of a dog catcher with this whole spaceship with this glass claw ball thing. It just encloses you. And like then it's like obviously Astro's in trouble, and he's like saying, "Elroy, Elroy," but it cuts back to Elroy, and he's getting tucked in by his dad this time. No Dream-O-Matic tonight. And Elroy's all sad. He's like, "Let's go find Astro," but George is like, "Not tonight. We'll start first thing in the morning," because George, he's not really alarmed that Astro's gone, but he doesn't. It's kind of weird. And then you have Orbitty and Elroy together, and this is kind of where the plot really picks up. You have Orbitty says, "Well, Astro ran away because he was like jealous of me," and Elroy is like, "Really? Why would he do that?" And then this is the part that's kind of confusing, where Orbitty's voice switches in and out of English and like alien language, and Elroy understands him the whole time, but they basically come to this resolution that if only we could explain it to Astro, if only we could have given him like an explanation. We're not trying to make him jealous, even though Orbitty was like stealing his food and stuff. I guess Orbitty just didn't understand. Orbitty seems really intelligent. He's able to fix things, and he understands family dynamics and everything. But Elroy and Orbitty take off on their hover skateboard thing looking for him, and Orbitty says, "Oh, I can find him." And Elroy's like holding Orbitty in front, like just holding him forward, and he's red. And he's supposed to change color with the emotions, but they're doing like a warmer, colder kind of thing to help find him. And I don't know if this is an extra ability that Orbitty has, where he can like locate things, and he'll turn colors depending on how close he is to those things. But it's kind of like a Rudolph leading Santa's sleigh kind of vibe with the red out in front, and it's not really clear how they do it. But Elroy's like warmer, warmer, and then they turn around, and then they find him, I guess. But we we see where in the meantime they're coming out, they're on their way. We got the rescue coming, and we cut to where Astro actually is, and we meet this dog pounder, I guess dog catcher, and his name is Felix, and he works for somebody named Maxie, but we never see Maxie. And it's like a dog kennel, and he's like in these little cubby holes that are in the wall, and over each cubby hole is glass, like it's like a glass prison. And in the middle of the piece of glass is like a classic like circular master lock that you just turn, like a 3-number combination where you turn it right 5 times, and then you stop at your first number, and then you turn it left all the way around once, and then you stop at the second number, and then you turn it right back to the third number, kind of like one of those locks. And it's like right in the middle of the glass, so I don't know how that open. I mean, it is kind of, yeah. It is a little strange how that lock is set up, but what happens is Elroy shows up with Orbitty, and Astro is so happy to see them that Astro like licks the glass like on the other side of the lock. He's like, "Oh boy," and licks it, and then he's like, "Yuck!" Like, why did he do that? And it was kind of that was a funny moment. Astro was just so excited, and then you got the master lock there, and they don't know how to break him out, but this commotion, this reunion is overheard by the guard, and Astro is the only dog in here, so I don't know why he just doesn't stay. Like, we never see another dog, but maybe there are. And he's like, he runs back over. Orbitty springs Elroy back up on the ceiling, so they're out of view. But he's like, "Okay, Rover, who are you talking to out here?" And this is kind of weird for a couple reasons. I mean, I guess he's used to dogs being able to talk, but it really is more like a prison than like a dog catcher, because Astro can talk. So like it doesn't make sense that like the policy is that any dog without a licensed collar has to be taken to like this space kennel, even though they can all talk, or maybe Astro is the only one who can talk and they don't make an exception for him. And Orbitty basically springs back down with Elroy, and the guard, as he's walking away, he's like, "I want quiet," So I guess don't talk anymore, Astro. But Orbitty, of course, can open the lock. He's like really handy, good at fixing things. So he basically just takes it apart, and he just like takes the whole lock apart, and then there's just a circle hole in the glass. And then they break out. They open the door that way somehow, and they make a run for it. And you actually hear police sirens chasing them. Like, this dog catcher is like coming back after them, after Elroy, Orbitty, and Astro, and like he catches up to them, and he's basically like Elroy is trying to tell him, like, "What are you doing? This is my dog," and he's like, "Sorry, anybody without a licensed collar has to go." And then he's like, "I have to take Orbitty too," and Orbitty doesn't like that, so Orbitty just hijacks the whole dog catcher's vehicle and catches the dog catcher in the circular ball thing in his own cage. And the dog catcher's like, "You can't do this. I work for the city," because this is like a severely authoritarian policy where like you have the dog catcher who, without exception, any dog without a licensed collar has to be taken. Like, no, you can't say anything to you can't explain yourself. You can't say, "Oh, we lost the collar," or "Oh, this is an endangered animal." No, it's like any sort of animal at all has to go. and he really like won't talk to them at all. Like he's not understanding at all. And he works for the city, so it's not like he's not really a villain. I wouldn't call him a villain. I wouldn't go that far. He's really just doing his job, and it seemed like a pretty aggressive policy. I mean, maybe they have a huge problem with dogs and animals, and it's weird because everything is in space, and these, they can't like fly their own ships, most of them, right? I mean, Astro wasn't taking any sort of spaceship. He was just walking around. So anyways, we get back to the return. They escape after the dog catcher gets hoodwinked, and Jane and George are like, we should be angry, but we're not. We're just happy you're back safe, which is good. And Elroy is like, can we keep Orbitty, Dad? Can we keep him? And before, their position had been like, oh, we'll see. I mean, maybe he has a family of his own to get back to, But then George is like, well, he's endangered. He probably needs a family of his own because there's none of him left. I mean, maybe he's like literally the last one. And he's good at fixing stuff, so let's keep him around. And while he's saying this, Orbitty is like leaving, and he's like on his way down the space elevator, and then they get sad, and then Jane's just like, oh, well, maybe it was best that he left, and they just like give up. And Jane was like, we all love him. And then Judy, she doesn't have a lot of parts in this episode, but she was just like, he was so cute, they're all sad. But then Orbitty jumps back up the elevator. He just springs right back. And it's, welcome to the family, Orbitty. We love you. We're so happy to have you. So that's pretty much how this episode ends. This is like the welcome back Jetsons episode. They were off the air for many years, and then they came back in the 80s. And, it's cool. They still had all the original voices. I already mentioned Frank Welker. They also had Mel Blanc. I don't know which characters he was. I don't think he was in this episode, but he can do pretty much any voice. And, that's pretty cool. But, I covered everything. I don't have too much else to say. So, this was fun. I enjoyed this. Thanks for listening. I guess I'll wrap this up now, and have a good night.